What's happening, everybody? Welcome back. This is episode 6 of the Pavement Group podcast. Thank you for joining us. I'm joined, as always, by my co-hosts, Brian and Mike. How are you, fellas?
Doing great, man.
Great. Thanks for having us here.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. I'm really excited. This week, we're going to talk about EOS and what the heck is EOS. EOS is the Entrepreneurial Operating System. We're right in the middle of implementing it within the Pavement Group, and we got a lot of great tips and ideas and all that to share with you. So excited. Thanks for being here for episode 6, and let's go. All right. So welcome back. Thanks for being here, guys. I think this is a fun one this week that we're going to be talking about. So we're in the middle of the journey of implementing EOS. What is EOS? And that's what we're going to talk about. To give you kind of a high-level explanation of it, it's the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And simply put, it helps leadership teams of entrepreneurial-type organizations become a tighter team, be a little bit faster, be a little bit more agile. And really, when you get it right, it permeates the whole organization. You just become a great company. It's a simple, practical approach. It's a unique combination of teaching, facilitating, and coaching throughout the whole organization. So EOS was founded by a fellow named Gino Wickman. He wrote a book called Traction. He's got a couple other books about it as well. But Traction is really kind of the Bible of EOS that really explains the whole thing. And then there's a whole program that you roll out. Generally takes you a year to really kind of get it. It starts with what we call a focus day, where we dive into, and at the Pavement Group, we've done our focus day, and you're really kind of diving into the tactical pieces. We create a good scorecard, which is really your dashboards within the company. We create an accountability chart, which is an organizational chart, but it gives you greater clarity. It's a really, really neat tool. And there's some other things where we focus on good meetings. There's a term called the L10 meeting that we use. That term comes from, we rate every meeting at the end of it, our leadership meetings, which are 90 minutes, start on time, end on time, very agenda driven. You leave there with some great to-dos and all that sort of stuff. And at the end of the meeting, you rank it from 1 to 10. So the L refers to a level 10 meeting because that's what you want to get every time. And I want to show you this here. I'm going to share my screen because what EOS really does that I think is the most powerful thing is it helps you to focus on the 6 things in your business. I'm going to struggle with getting that up there. Application window. There we go. That you really need to be focused on. It's said that there's anywhere from 100 to 130 things that an entrepreneur can focus on every single day in their business. EOS breaks it down into 6 buckets that helps you to focus much tighter and use your team really to drive all those agendas. So it's vision, it's traction, it's people, it's data, it's issues, and it's processes. And as I'm talking with the guys here, we'll get a little bit more granular on what all that stuff means. And I'll figure out how to share my screen one of these days as well, Brian, right? I need a technology lesson from you.
Yeah,
so
that's not part of EOS.
It's not. So you go from focus day, and then we get into the vision building. So the focus is very tactical, and that's the traction piece of everything. And then you get into the vision. Right. So you got traction and then vision. There's someone that once said that vision without traction is merely hallucination. And that's where we're at right now is the vision building piece. And that's talking about building a long-term vision for the company. We look at 1 year, we look at 3 years, we look 10 years out, and then we put all the core focuses, your core values and all that sort of stuff in place. And again, that's where we're at in the journey. It's an interesting place to have a check-in, I think, because we've gotten a good flavor for it. First time Mike and Brian have seen it in their careers. And we're, again, very much in the middle of it. So, Brian, let me ask you this. From Focus Day, right, what were some of your biggest takeaways as a team? What do you think that we all learned as a leadership team that maybe we weren't doing before?
I think there's a couple things. Number one is just to provide just an incredible level of clarity on, what is going on in the company, who is actually doing all of these things, how much overlap we had in people running to kind of the same issues, and then just dissecting that from a responsibility and most importantly, accountability standpoint of who is actually going to be responsible and accountable for the things that are happening in the company, and then equally dividing that in a sensible way that, you know, people are actually responsible for individual things. Because as a growing company, you know, the way that we started things, you know, we worked as a tight-knit crew, and so as things would pop up, we would kind of all run to those problems. And ultimately, in the end, sometimes we really didn't know who was accountable for those things. So I think for me, that was the biggest piece of clarity, is like just sorting out and placing people into the right seats so that you can actually build on top of that and have the growth that we're looking to have.
Sure. Yeah, man, that's so well said. You know, it's funny, that brings up a point too. A lot of folks say to me, so I work as an implementer within the EOS world as well. So we've worked, myself, my partner, worked with a lot of different businesses, different sizes, different industries and all that. And a lot of people have said to me, well, we're too small for EOS. And I think your point right there, you know, having a company that might be 8 or 10 people, you really need it so that the roles are clearly defined. Even if you're using part of it, that's really the right people, right seats piece. And then our accountability chart outlines exactly what this individual is responsible for. And you don't get that crossover, right? The left hand knows what the right hand's doing, and you're getting way more efficiency because one person is doing a task. So in small companies, when, you know, there's a fire alarm, the tendency is everybody goes and grabs a hose. Whereas, no, you got to grab a hose, you got to guide people to the exit, you got to do this, you know, right? And that's really what it creates. So that's really well said. So Mike sits on the leadership of the Pavement Group team. He runs the sales division and estimating division. What's it helped you with? Just coming out of, let's focus on Focus Day with the basic tools that we had, and I'll go over those a little bit more here. But what have you been able to implement so far, Mike, with your team?
Well, I think Brian hit it on the head. It's the accountability piece of it. I mean, we didn't really know who was doing what, and we've always had this plan of scalability, and it's unscalable to be able to reproduce myself or reproduce Brian to try to take up all that, all that workload. So finding the right people in the right places, putting them in the silos that they need to be in, and then holding the person who's on top of that accountable for what their employees are doing, and then being able to report that it's been immense. I mean, we've been able to really find clarity in ourselves, our own jobs. The people who are our subordinates or our employees are also being able to find clarity in what they're doing too, because they know who to go to ask a question. They can get an answer from the right person now. Okay. Like I said, we've planned for scalability since the beginning, but we didn't know how we were going to get there technically. I mean, we had these grandiose dreams of getting to where we are scalable, many crews, many offices and whatnot, but this is really the plan on how to get there. This is the actual framework that we're going to use to get to that spot.
I got you. All right. So if you don't have a plan in place, Brian, what does that look like? So we're talking about scaling, and I know Pavement Group's very aggressive, really want to grow fast here and already have. What was it looking like without having some sort of a system in place?
I think what happens is you really, I think they use these words actually in EOS, but you get to points where you feel like you're hitting a ceiling, right? There's only so much that you can jam into and try to figure out by kind of just muscling through it, right? Like, you know, that is what we have always done from the beginning. Is we always had a strategy, and one of the great things about our company is we've always had pretty solid communication. You know, we communicate pretty well within our group, and that has allowed us to work through or muscle through some of the challenges that you face when you don't have that detailed framework in place that really assigns all of this stuff. But, you know, just in the short period of time since we started implementing EOS, you could just feel a difference, that it's not so overwhelming, right? It's not so kind of up and down where you feel like, man, how are we going to power through this? Then you get to the other side, you kind of take a breather, and it's like being in the ocean. The next wave is coming, right? As you continue to grow on a rapid pace, those waves get bigger and bigger and bigger. And to Mike's point, at some point you realize that, like, you know, to really scale, to really get to the biggest waves and be able to ride them, you got to have clearly defined processes and accountability to the level where, you know, everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing and exactly where they're supposed to be going for the answers that they need. So I would say that, you know, it's just a little more hectic and reactive on the side where you don't have that strategy in place. You're
Sure.
kind of always reacting to the problems that come about, versus EOS seems a lot more proactive, planned out, and everybody kind of knows their place and where they're supposed to go for answers if they need them.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to share the EOS, what we call the wheel here. It's the wheel, the pie. There we go. All right, so let me pop this guy up. So can you guys see that okay?
Yep.
So, and the visual,
you got that thing up there, man. That's
I figured it out. I want my gold star for the day, please. You see your business is in the middle of this, right? It's a great visual. And so what I was talking about with 100 to 133 things, and that was an actual study, that there's 100 to 133 or 133, I think is the actual number, things that a business owner or an executive, someone that's in a leadership position in a business, has to worry about. That comes across your desk, comes through your email, walks into your office, whatever it is. And what EOS has done is really trimmed it down to these 6 things. And if you focus on these 6 things, you're going to be successful. We absolutely believe that wholeheartedly. So the 6 things, which I mentioned before, but I want to go through with the visual up here. Vision, and the vision means, and so there's 8 questions that you want to answer for your company. And we're going to go over that in a few too. Which is a really, really neat tool. And that's part of the vision building that we're in right now. And the other part is that's shared by all. So you create your vision, and because you've become a good tactical team, you've learned how to put it in play and spread it throughout the whole company. So vision's culture, right? Vision's where are we going? Everybody wants to know that. And you create that great clarity in the company, get everybody excited around the mission. It's really a cool thing. And then the traction piece is your rocks, which is your 90-day goals. This is a lot of goal setting for individuals and as a team. And then your meetings, you're running your business through these meetings. So that L10 meeting that I referenced before, and how important it is to have good meetings where people are engaged, that start on time, that end on time, and that lead to the next meeting without missing a beat. Good data, the data that we focus on is having a great scorecard. The way we define a great scorecard is if the key person in your company was stranded on a desert island and they needed one piece of paper, they can only get one piece of paper a day to tell them exactly how the company's doing, the health of the company. What does that look like? What numbers need to be in there from a finance, operations, and sales standpoint? Then you also have your measurables. So that's, this versus that, whatever that is. So the people piece, which is an extremely important piece, obviously, very basic. Right people, and are they in the right seats? And we've got a few exercises that we've done as the Pavement Group so far on this. Something called the GWC. Do they get it? Do they want it? Do they have the capacity to do it? You run all your key people through that. And it really will help you make some moves. And it doesn't mean some positive moves. And it doesn't mean necessarily that you got to get rid of people. It might mean that you got great people doing the wrong job, in the wrong seat, but they really can help the organization, whatever that is. And then the other 2 pieces are process. Making sure all your processes are documented, not over documented either, documented in a way that people will follow them. And then that's followed by all, and that just creates a culture of accountability. And then the issues are a very important piece. You keep an ongoing issues list as a leadership team. And you do something we call IDS, which is identify, discuss, and solve every week at your leadership meeting. These things don't fall off. Somebody owns that issue. The team is working on it together, and you're solving it before the meeting's over. And instead of having all these issues that hang out there, you got them looking you in the face every single week, and you have to solve them. Somebody's responsible for all the action items, associated with solving them. So that is pretty powerful. I'm going to take my share off here. That is pretty powerful right there. That if you can get these 6 things down, right? How well you can run as a company, as an organization, how fast you can go. Mike, which one of those would you say resonates the most with you, being 2 days into the EOS journey here, 6 weeks or 8 weeks, whatever we're into it? Which one of those resonates most with you is, let's say, the most important?
I'd have to say between vision, because that's where you start, right? I mean, we have a vision in the Pavement Group when we've always had this plan to where we were going to go, but sharing that with the most important part in my point of view is the people. I mean, with sharing that with the people, allowing them to be able to gain traction in their own way, It's hard for me to say because all 6 of these are very important. Now that you're putting me through this list, it's hard to say, but I really think vision is number 1. Obviously, that's why it's on top. I mean, the people who created this were smart for a reason, right? But then I really think that it's the people. I mean, you have to have the right people in the right places, and if you don't, it's really going to be hard to share the vision. It's hard to get traction. It's going to be hard to get through all the data, the issues, and the processes if you don't have the right people in the right spots. And
no, sure. Have you run that exercise at all with your team for the right people, right seats?
Yeah, absolutely. We have. We've gone through a couple different times where when we first did the vision day was to put the people in the right seats, and then we got to the second portion of it, and then we reevaluated to make sure that the people are still in the right seats. And moving forward, I think that's what we're going to do continuously is we're going to reevaluate. Are we in the right spots? Are we doing the right things? In the process, Brian was put into a spot that he was not. He's been doing forever, but it gave him a label, and we kind of took him out of another spot that he was really good at. But then throughout the process, he just kind of gravitated back to where he needed to be. And then we rediscussed that at our second meeting, and it really made sense to let Brian be in charge of, the marketing of our company, obviously for a very good reason, right? So I think it's right people, right spots, and then the rest of it's going to fall in line as this process continues to go on for us.
Sure. Right. Is there some freedom with that?
I think to add on to what Mike said on the vision piece too, I think that the most important thing that you can do as a leadership team too is to make sure that you actually define and align your own vision, right? Because before you can cascade it to other people, you really, you got to make sure that you understand what your own vision is and that everybody is really aligned on that. Because as we cascade that message down, if we don't have alignment, then people are being, delivered a message that is similar but just slightly different, and that's how companies grow, maybe in the wrong direction, right, or in separate directions, even if it's just this much. And I think that's the thing that excites me the most is I feel like, coming out of these meetings and even every week the meetings that we have, there is just a tighter and tighter alignment of exactly what we're trying to accomplish. And it seems to get clearer and easier as those conversations continue. Well, this is what we stand for and agree to. So this is how we're going to move forward. Everybody starts to understand the vision, understand the core values, understand what it is that our company is going to identify as.
Right.
And being a member of that group, right, you can only be immensely beneficial to the rest of the team if you have alignment, right? That is the most important thing. And I feel that throughout our company at a completely different level. Like Mike said, I think we've always been pretty aligned. We've always had an understanding of what the vision was, but I feel like we're gaining those inches and gaining that clarity that really takes it to the next level. To me, that's the most exciting part.
Yeah, sure. No, well said. So Mike had referenced, we identified a sort of a different role for Brian in the company. So there's something called a visionary and something called an integrator within the EOS ecosystem, right? And about 50% of companies, entrepreneurial companies, have a visionary. And generally, the visionary is someone that's really good with culture, big picture thinking, way down the road ahead of the company, 20 great ideas in the morning, usually 1 or 2 of them will stick. And that's where you want to keep them freed up to really drive the company. Everybody hitching their wagon to the visionary. A lot of times visionaries don't have that tactical day-to-day in the weeds, details kind of exhaust them. Brian is sort of that hybrid that you don't see very often where you can kind of do both. But you're much better, we decided, as a visionary. So we decided to cut those chains, get you out of the weeds, let you ascend up above the trees, right? And spend much more time up there. And we assigned an integrator within the company that's really running the day-to-day. So in my mind, this is a great example of it where we were able to free up somebody that's got tremendous vision and that can do a lot more for us if they're not stuck down in the weeds. Again, that's not every company. Not everybody needs to identify a visionary and integrator. You have to have an integrator. The integrator is the person that I like to say keeps the trains running on time. But you don't always have that visionary in the company. We're fortunate enough to have that. And then someone that stepped right into the integrator role and has done a phenomenal job there. But what it's about, again, is putting people in a position. EOS, it relies on a lot of traditional business standards and practices, but at the same time, we want people to do what gives them energy. We want people to be freed up to do what's best for the company, not necessarily just in this box of, well, you're the operations director, so you do X, Y, and Z. It's to say, what are you going to be best at? What's going to propel us the furthest forward? What are you going to be happiest showing up at work every day doing? You know what I mean? And in that particular instance, we know what gives Brian energy. And when he's operating at that level, which we've seen in just 6 weeks, it's massive. It's awesome. It really is. Okay, I want to go over the 8 questions that you need to ask, and then I want some feedback from you guys here. I'm going back to a screen share. This could be dangerous. If we disappear, we're coming back, I promise. Give me a sec here. Let me go. Boom. No, that's the 90-minute meeting. Hold on one second. This is what you all tuned in for. This is comedy. Here it is. So the 8 answers, this graphic here says the 8 answers that'll get your company's leaders to make decisions 10 times faster. So this is all about the EOS questions that we ask, right? And gentlemen, chime in at any time. This is an open forum here. I want to have a little more of a conversation than just me throwing the questions out. Because this is the cool stuff. To me, the beginning of this is what's fun, right? I'm much more of a visionary type of a person personally. I love the core values. I love talking 10-year target. I love talking down the road, and I love talking culture. The tactical day-to-day stuff exhausts me a little bit, to be honest with you. It's just the way that I'm made up. But this was fun stuff. So we met in Nashville last week. We spent an entire day. We put in an 8-hour session starting to carve out and cobble the core values of the company, the core focus, the 10-year target. And that's called vision building. That was vision building day 1. We'll do it again here in about 4 weeks for vision building day 2, where we put everything in a bow. We kind of run it through the grinder and make sure it's exactly everything that we're looking for. So core values, number 1, right? Brian, talk a little bit about how we got to our core values. You don't have to talk about necessarily what they are, but if you could talk about how we got to our core values and the process and all that when we were down in Nashville.
Yeah, I think it was a really cool exercise, and this is something that anybody can do, inside of their company, or even for me, I've talked about doing this with my wife for our family, right? To talk about values that we really stand for and that mean a lot to us. And the way that we did that was we went around the room and everybody kind of identified 3 individuals that they really I guess look up to or consider people that if they had a bunch of those people around them, there's nothing they can't accomplish, right? And so you identify those 3 people in your life, and then you look at what are the characteristics of those people that I really admire, that really, blend well with me, that what I stand for as an individual. And then everybody in the room, we throw those up on a board and we kind of figure out, like, what are those things that we admire, that we want, obviously, have in our own lives, and then probably have in our own business, right?
Sure.
And then to take that a step further, we really evaluate ourselves and each other, and we look at, are those things that we're looking at aspirations, or are they things that we really possess? And
right
so
on.
that list ends up becoming, as you whittle it down, that list ends up becoming the core values. And I think it was a really cool exercise, to look at the things that ended up being our core values, and to be able to look around the room and look around the company and genuinely see those things in the people that surround us. And when we talk about core values, it's as it says at EOS, but I think we all know this to be true. It's what you make, every decision on, your hiring decisions, in some cases, your firing decisions. It's because, and in our case, sometimes we make these decisions with customers, right? It's like, do we want to proceed with this customer because do they or do they not align with our values? And so what we have found over the years, and we say this a lot to our customers, is like, when those things align, when you have the same values, when you share values with a customer, the chances that you have a very successful business relationship with that customer are exponentially greater because
Sure.
you believe the same things. And so, for me, it has always been that, and I think that we've always made decisions or tried to make decisions based on, the core values that we believe that we all possess and that the company possesses. But what we're doing is revisiting that, detailing it, making sure that it is precisely focused on what we all believe, and then moving forward, building the company around those things, so that the
Sure.
customers that are out there or the future employees that we want to be here can look at that list of values and say, that's me or that's not me.
Right.
And they know whether they're going to fit in here well or not. And we should know the same in return, right? We should be able to look at someone that we're talking about bringing on and really dig into, what does that person's blueprint look like? What are their values, and do they align with ours? If they do, we'll probably have a pretty successful situation.
Sure.
So I really believe that whole exercise of core values is probably, I think it's one of the most important things that we've done as a company, because I think that it does a couple of things. It makes us all look in the mirror and say, are we always committed to these things? Not just when it's easy, and not just because it's something that we want to stand for, but when the cards are on the table and adversity hits, are we still standing by these things that
Right.
we say? And that is ultimately what defines a company and an individual and their values, right?
Right on, man. Right on. Yeah, that's great. I see the values too as like a protective layer of a company. Because if you get everybody aligned around those values, they believe in it, and you've got people in the organization that are made up that way, you're going to bring some people in. When you're expanding, you're going to hire, you're going to make some mistakes. It doesn't allow the wrong person to penetrate that, to change the culture, to get politics and all that sort of stuff into play. It bounces off because you've got a strong protective layer called your core values. So if we talk about core focus, Mike, I'll let you take this one. Similar, we went through sort of a similar exercise, but it wasn't necessarily about, obviously it wasn't about values, but it wasn't about what makes a person up. It's more about what do we do as the best in the world that we believe. If you don't mind talking a little bit about that, Mike, the core focus and how we got to that.
Well, first, I just want to reiterate what something Brian said. He said it felt like it was the most important step that we took. I think every step that we're taking in this process feels like the most important step for our company, because the process has been outlined for us. So I just wanted to throw out there that quick. Every new step is something really exciting for us at this point in time. But what the core focus, what that allowed us to do is really figure out what we as a company, first of all, want to be good at, and number two, what are we actually really good at this point in time that we can put our company's core focus towards, to be able to move forward and present a product and a reputation that we're trying to show to our clients at this point in time. We found out that we are really technology driven and customer focused, and that the processes that we've implemented inside our company are really, I would say top of the line. There's not many other companies that are able to do that, what we are doing. And honestly, that has come to, when was it, Monday, we had that conversation where I don't think anybody else can do what we're actually doing for a client at this point in time. We are the only company that is out there that is able to do what we're doing. And it's really being able to allow us to, find our niche and be the best in that niche at this point in time.
Right on. Yeah. They call it the hedgehog concept. Jim Collins talks a lot about it in Good to Great. And I think that's how we got to that, when we realized the feedback we get from customers. We hear once a week when we're doing demos or whatever on some of our technology stuff that, geez, I've never seen this before. Boy, we've looked at a lot of platforms and nobody really has this. So that rings the bell that, all right, maybe we might be the best out there at this. This is pretty cool. As you build towards what your unique marketing strategy is, internally and externally, and that's part of EOS as well, it's basically the three things that nobody else can do that you can do, and that's kind of what we got there. That technology piece, our relationship driven piece, and some other things. We'll talk about that maybe on another show. I don't want to go too far down the EOS rabbit hole here, because as I said, there's days and days of this. So let me, I'm going to share the screen again and just show you the rest of the 8 questions here. And again, with these 8 questions, the idea is once you can answer them and align the company, first your leadership team. It all starts with your leadership team, but then the company pushing it out, getting crystal clear clarity throughout the company. you're unstoppable. You really are. So question number 3 is, what is your 10-year target? Question number 4, marketing strategy. And that's marketing strategy isn't just, we're going to go digital. This is what our logo is going to look like. It's not just that. It's not the branding piece of it. It's not even just that, the rolling marketing back to sales piece. It's who are your ideal customers? And you look at that from a psychographic, geographic, and demographic standpoint. You get a lot of clarity from that. You think you might have it figured out right now, but when you really break that down, it can, a lot of times I've seen it with companies, change the way you're doing things for the better. And then what are the 3 things that set you apart from your competition? Brian, what do you think? If you were to ask that question internally, I'm gonna stop sharing. I'll put you on the spot here. But I just touched on a couple of them, and I don't know, we haven't finished our marketing strategy, but that's some of the core focus stuff that came out. What do we do better than anybody else in the world? And 3 things that would tie it together.
I think, the number one thing that we do is we educate people on how to manage their pavement assets better through technology, through analytics, through data, through all that type of stuff. I think we definitely organize and execute better than any company out there. And we do that through technology platforms. Mm-hmm. And just keeping everything in line. To Mike's point, we're pulling off a project right now that is very difficult, and we will do it with our internal process. It creates a little pressure inside of our company because we have such a process to get all of this right and to be able to deliver on time, on budget, no issues or minimal issues. Like when you're doing something at scale, you always have some issues, but we even have processes in place to resolve those issues. And so I think it's that front end of evaluating and teaching people how to do it, the actual execution organization of large scale projects like that. And then last but not least, it's straight up just communication and customer service, right? And I think those 2 things go hand in hand. Like if you were to go out to people and ask them what the biggest challenges that they have had with contractors would be, if you boil it down to really what they're saying, most of the time there's a communication breakdown, and they don't know something that's going on or something wasn't explained clear to them. So again, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but if I was to guess, that would be the first 3 things that I would brainstorm and put on a piece of paper as to really what we stand for. And there's technology woven into all of that, right? So to be able to deliver it at the level that we do, we rely heavily on technology as a resource to do that for us and with us.
Well, I appreciate your dive in, because I want to just show a little bit of how the EOS process works, right? So you take that, you take your leadership team, and you're taking a full day out of the office, green light, whiteboard, throwing these ideas around, and you got 4, 6, 8 really smart people in the room challenging each other on all those things that Brian just said. So somebody's going to throw something out, you're going to take a shot over the bow, and then you're going to beat it up as a team and really cobble it down to what exactly your best marketing strategy is. And that's why it works. I mean, it's a great, like you were just having a little bit of a green light session there, because this isn't something that we've done yet, our marketing strategy. And that's, it's awesome. So you can see how powerful that could be when you involve the whole team. So the other pieces, and guys, feel free to jump in here if you want to add any color commentary to this. Your three-year picture and your 1-year plan. So 10 years, we talked about the 10-year goal, the target. That's the BHAG, right? The big, hairy, audacious goal. That's your long-term vision that you're going to communicate with the rest of the company, whether it's a revenue, a number of employees, a new product, if it's dominating the world, whatever it is. I think of a company like Tesla, which is a great example of, imagine, say 5-7 years ago, him sharing his 10-year target and what people in the company must have thought. And if he really sold it well, which obviously Elon Musk had, imagine that. We're going to have rocket ships and we're going to have all this stuff. And here they are working towards it. But it didn't happen without a shorter term goal and a shorter term picture to have that, well, this is what we got to do. And are we on track, right? So you go from that 10 back to your 3-year picture. And the 3-year picture is going to be incrementally towards that 10-year picture, right? So whether you're tracking revenue, employees, product, territories, whatever it is, it's all going to be factored in incrementally in that 3-year picture. And then your 1-year plan is ultimately your business plan. And that's what everybody is aligned around to do this year. It's much more tactical: revenue, profit, measurables. What are your 3 to 7 big objectives for the year? And then once you figure out what those objectives are for the year, so 1 year is a goal, they break down to 90-day rocks. So you're moving these rocks out of the way every 90 days. You're setting something. Everybody individually has them, and the team has them. The leadership team has them. Things that absolutely have to get done in a quarter to make sure you're on track for your 1 year plan. So you see how it starts here with that vision, right? And then it breaks down to 3 years. Are we on track? Breaks down to 1 year. This is what we got to do this year to get towards that 3 year. And then the 90-day window. And you're always living in a 90-day window with EOS. And it makes it very manageable, makes it very real, and it makes it very accountable. The issues I talked about a little bit, the issues list, and this is what you finish every L10 meeting on. It's really the baseline of the meeting. You spend, of that 90 minutes, you spend about an hour on your issues. What are the obstacles, challenges, barriers that you need to solve to get to the next level, to break through that ceiling, whatever it is? What are the opportunities and new ideas that you need to address? So issues aren't always negative. They're not always a problem. A lot of times they're about growth and about strategy. And then what issues have been buried for a while that you need to get up to the surface? So EOS is very much also about holding each other accountable as a leadership team, having brutally honest conversations, and having that trust in the room that you're okay, that you can argue, work through things. Things aren't always perfect, but when you walk out that door after a meeting as a leadership team, you guys are in lockstep and you're sharing the same mission, the same vision with everybody in the rest of the company. So Mike, let me ask you, the rest of that list there, anything that jumps out at you as something that we've been working on, something we need to work on?
Well, I think what we're doing is we're reverse engineering how to get to our big goal. All right. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And sure. I'm really just going to finish this with a question to Brian. And we say this to each other all the time. How do you eat an elephant?
Yeah.
One bite at a time.
Sure.
Grab a fork.
Right. Yeah. One bite at a time. And we're breaking it down to how we're going to take one bite at a time. And Brian said something on TCS last night that made me think about this. Is we really took this big goal that we came up with, and we figured out how many offices it's going to take to get there, how many salespeople it's going to take to get there, how many dollars per salesperson, how much we're going to spend marketing to get there, and then that's really what we're doing at this point in time, is figuring out how to get to this big, hairy, audacious goal that we set for ourselves. And all we're doing is taking one bite at a time, and then we're breaking it down to smaller bites. And that's really, I mean, that's how I think of it. And I see how this is going to work for us and how it could work in many instances. I mean, I can't believe you said that you were going to figure out your core values for your family. I mean, to me, I never even thought of it, but it's true. Right? I mean, it comes back to all of these different things in our lives that we can use this type of system to make ourselves better.
Right on.
It's alignment. And I think, that reverse engineering thing of taking something down the road and then figuring out how to do it. I mean, it does a couple of things. The one thing that stood out to me from the last exercise that we did of setting that goal down the road. We said this in our meeting, what it does is it takes the day-to-day problems that everybody sometimes gets obsessed over and stuck in, and it makes them less of a big deal, I guess, is the best way to put it. You're way more focused down the road on, man, we're chasing this big goal, right? We've got all these things in place that are helping us get where we're trying to go. Elon Musk is such a great example. I mean, the dude's building $1 billion facility in Austin, Texas now, moving out of California to do that. And again, it's setting that vision and constantly, as I said last night on Top Contractor School Elite, it was, you always have to be casting that vision and selling that vision of what it is, because if you don't, you get stuck in the day-to-day challenges that happen. And so you are way more likely to solve a problem for a customer, to solve an internal problem quickly and get back to what you're doing if you've got this vision of where you're going. Right. If you don't have vision and you don't have these goals that are down the road and you don't have all these things in place, then really you're not going anywhere. You're just existing. And so that's what's really exciting about this. I think that, like Mike said earlier, we've always had a vision, But when you start to put that vision down on paper and you start to really define it, you start to really internalize that and believe in it, you truly do feel unstoppable. And that's it's exciting, man. It's an exciting thing for us internally, but it's also an exciting thing for our customers. And that's why we wanted to do this podcast, was, to not just share it with, with people that are other contractors or things like that, but to let our customers know what's going on inside of our company so that they can understand, there is a vision here, and our vision is focused on solving those problems for people that exist in the market that we know we are the best in the world at solving for them. And, we're committed to it. We've got enormous goals to be able to do that at scale, to be able to solve problems all across the country, and with an entire army of people that work for this company that are committed to the same values and the same vision, trying to solve the same problems.
Right on. That's so well said, man. One of the core values that made the board, stay tuned to find out what made the cut, but that made the board was a CSI, we call it, continual self-improvement. And a company that has that heart, that has that foundation, will always be okay. You'll always have the opportunity to, to reinvent yourself when you have to, but to have that growth and bring anybody in and, to be able to provide a great journey for them with your company. And it's special. It really is. It's pretty cool. The companies, I enjoy any company that's always working on themselves. And that's what EOS is. It's I like to say it's not for companies that are in trouble. It's for companies that hit some sort of a ceiling and just want to get to that next level. It really is. And those are companies that have that heart of self-improvement, which is a lot of great ones out there. We get the good fortune to work with them a lot. All right, gentlemen, anything that I missed, anything that you think's worthy of talking about here with the EOS, a little round robin open session here?
No, man, I think it was great conversation. Every conversation about this topic makes us better. And so I hope that, people that listen to this or watch this on social media, I hope that they look into the program, because it's been exceptional for us. And I am confident that regardless of the size company you are, that having knowledge of these systems and these processes and things would help you, as a business owner and as a business.
Right on. Mike?
I just think, as a process-driven company, it was just inevitable for us to put processes everywhere, right? And I think the leadership process that we're creating at this point in time is allowing us to create an environment that is good for our employees, good for our customers, good for ourselves, and it's all part of this vision that we had in the beginning.
Awesome. Yeah, right on. Good stuff, guys. Well, I appreciate the time. I think this was another good one. It's always fun chatting with you gentlemen. It's great when we get into topics like this. Folks, we're starting to build a following here. Grateful for that. Thank you, everybody that's been watching and sharing this. If you do us a favor, continue to subscribe, share it out, recommend it to your friends. Tell everybody. We would really, really appreciate that. This was episode 6 of the Pavement Group podcast. Mike, Brian, thank you so much. Everybody have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you on episode 7. Thank you.
Thank you.